The last 10 months have been hell on earth for residents in parts of Marsabit County in northern Kenya. A return to the days of old when violence was a way of life, the norm rather than the unusual. So far, 17 people have died in the last 1 month. What has sparked this spate of attacks? Why is the violence ongoing despite a heavy security presence in the area? And to what extent are leaders to blame for what has been referred to as the silent massacre? Tonight, NTV's Melita Oletenges unpacks the complex factors responsible for the deaths in the desert.
Serikali kama hao hawana haja na nchi hii, sisi pia tutatoka hapa tukibeba watoto wetu wale, hata tukikufa na njaa na kiu tukufe njiani badala ya kukufa hapa.
Our brother aliuawa kisiasa, aliuawa kwa sababu ya siasa, aliuawa kwa sababu yeye ni mtu wa kutafuta amani.
Hakuna ng'ombe mimi niko nao, hakuna mbuzi, hayote yameenda. Mimi bado soma.
Wallahi hata sisi vile tunaamka asubuhi tunakuja hii kazi, tunayogofia haswa nafsi yetu.
Any life lost in Marsabit is a big loss to me. It's a setback to me. Doesn't matter where they come from.
The final rites for 2 women and a child, members of the Gabra community. And the faces of a conflict that has torn through and ruined their homes. On the 24th of May, armed gunmen laid siege to these manyatas in Konso Balanche and left it a dusty, wasted ruin. 3 children aged between 6 to 8 years survived the carnage and are clinging to their fleeting lives at the Kenyatta National Hospital with eye and chest wounds. These are the latest echoes from the cruel lands of Marsabit, where life is marked by death and blood. And these are the faces from the sites of slaughter, where armed men have laid waste to the innocent, the defenseless, and the unlucky.
Walibisha mlango, alafu mama alikataa kufungua, walivunja mlango, wakaingia. Mamangu alimuua. Ninawajua vizuri wale watatu.
Ripples of fear and apprehension washed through the village, and they in turn took up arms and other weapons in readiness for the next attack. But the night just before the attack at Manyata, Konso Balanche, the night of the 23rd of May, 2 men from the Borana community, Jilo Sora and Abdul Jilo, were shot dead in their home while they slept by 2 unknown gunmen. The attackers are said to have accessed the satellite camp from the Isiolo-Moyale highway, which is just a few meters away. Nothing was stolen, even though Jilo Sora had 12,000 shillings in his home. No animals were driven away. The incident happened barely a kilometer from a police security check, but there was no police response that night. Until the following morning, when the flurry of burial activity called its people together, the police and area leaders were there. It's the first time that Galmo Abduba and Elema Jilo have visited the still fresh grave where their husbands lie. Their wounds of loss are still raw. The lumps of disturbed soil show the hyenas had tried to dig them up the night before.
Our previous settlement was Horonder. We moved to Garshaba due to the conflict, and now my husband was killed here. He was around 70 years old. I have now been left with 2 daughters to take care of them by myself.
What saddens me is that my husband was killed close to a police barrier and RDU camp, but it's only the residents who responded. The attackers accomplished their mission and left.
Halake Ali is lucky to be alive. When the gunmen attacked his village, he took cover in the nick of time. He says he recognized the voices of the men shooting at them. They were well known to him and to the 2 slain herders.
We used to keep vigil at night to protect our livestock from wild animals and protect ourselves. I saw the attackers. They used to visit us, buy milk, and we would chew mira together.
These incidents just adding to the accounts of death and violence that have sullied these lands. In the last year, such blood-soaked sites have sprouted in several parts of Marsabit County. 47 people have been killed in the conflict that often starts as something manageable and evolves into something more sinister. There was a brief interlude of peace after the 2017 general election until a chief was killed and the cycle of violence restarted. In December last year, the now Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection and former governor for Marsabit County, Ukur Yatani, presided over the launch of a new tribe called the Wayu, initially known as the Wata. A sub-tribe of the Borana community. To many, it was a political move to bring down the numerical strength of the Borana community. On the same day, 2 people were killed, among them the then chief of Dirib Gombo location, George Bika. He was burnt to death. The chief had attended the meeting, which was interpreted as a betrayal among his Borana people.
Our brother aliuawa kisiasa. Aliuawa kwa sababu ya siasa. Aliuawa kwa sababu yeye ni mtu wa kutafuta amani.
The chief's death started a ripple of bloodbaths and attacks, and Marsabit is still counting and burying its dead. A people warily resigned to the peaks and troughs of the conflict, whose causes have mutated from just a battle over land and scarce water and pasture into something more complex. The conflict exposes the fault lines in the battered relationship between the Gabra and the Borana communities. Marsabit County is arguably the largest county in Kenya, occupying a landmass of 66,923 square kilometers with over 14 tribes and a population of 291,166 people. The Gabra and the Borana are the dominant tribes. The conflict hotspots include Dukana, Turbi, Maikona, Forole, Moyale, Sololo, Kargi, and around Marsabit town. But even though the Gabra and Borana share a language, names, and even culture, they are yet to find harmony. In Kubikalo, the village is deserted after armed men raided it in October last year, killing 5 people and made away with 900 goats.
Kubikalo village was once a vibrant village with Borana settlers, livestock, and was full of life, but it now remains a ruin. The villagers moved away as a result of the conflict. Selling fear and sending the villagers away is a method the assailants use to gain such a settlement over time.
Hakuna mali kuishi hapa, kukunywa tu maji akatoroka kama mizi. Hakuna salama, sisi tunakaa hapa saizi. Uangalie masala sasa. Hakuna ng'ombe mimi niko nao, hakuna mbuzi, hayote yameenda. Mimi bado soma. Hauna biashara nyingine? Biashara yangu ni mali yangu. Sasa iko na ruhusa peke yake.
It's no different in the Gabra territory in Forole, near the Kenya-Ethiopia border, and where 11 Gabra elders who were attending a peace meeting in Ethiopia were killed by suspected Borana attackers in Ulan area. The residents here say the attack had political motivations in a bid to kick them out of their land.
Serikali kama hao hawana haja na nchi hii, sisi pia tutatoka hapa. Tukibeba watoto wetu wale, hata tukikufa na njaa na kiu, tukufe njiani badala ya kukufa hapa.
Those living at the center of this violence have accused the police of not doing enough to put out the flames of confrontation that have consumed them.
It is vividly sure, beyond any reasonable doubt, that after killing 11, 48 hours after that, we could not see any, security being beefed or being, any seriousness of the Kenyan government.
Wale wamekufa watu 5 hapa. Ngoja polisi akashinda isiku saa 5, sisi gari ya raia kunibebea hapa. Kutoka saa 8 mchana. Maita to hapa saa 5 usiku. Amengoja polisi amekashinda.
The truth of the matter is our security officers are doing a very good job. They are doing a lot of patrols. They have made so many arrests. In the recent cases, we have had about 6 arrests in the recent killings. In the past, we have also arrested even politicians for incitement. So I just want to state that, when there is war, you cannot arrest everybody because you also need evidence.
The government, in an effort to improve the fortune of the residents, disarmed the National Police Reservice. The move had mixed reactions. Some say the decision left them more exposed to more attacks, but the government defended the move, saying some of the police reservice could have been involved in the attacks.
We had those allegations against the NPR, and we even witnessed 15 NPRs getting killed and their guns disappearing. So this thing was real. That's why the government made a decision that all NPRs should be disarmed. And I can confirm that they have been disarmed. So what is remaining, after we have moved up the illegal weapons, we will do a thorough vetting so that we get people who are credible to be National Police Reservice.
There are a lot of illegal firearms around. And I call upon the security agencies. They have disarmed the KPRs, and that is fine. Actually, I have no problem with that. I support that. Only if they do it fairly across the board, and they get rid of even the illegal firearms, but they must provide adequate security for the people.
Veiled under the deadly attacks are deep and unresolved wrangles over leadership. Former Governor and current CS for Labour Ukur Yatani, Agabra, does not see eye to eye with the current Governor Muhammad Ali, Aborana. The two are the most influential leaders in the county, and some say the battle for the next election, just 3 years away, could be behind the fresh flare-up of violence.
This is conflict over land. It's conflict whereby people are trying to dominate one another. It's conflict over, power. As leaders from that county, we have not invested in peace building. We are waiting for others from outside, to come and save our people.
The problem we have is scheming for 2022. The problem is not actually between Gabra and Borana per se. I don't like this fallacy of generalization where it is always said Gabra and Borana, Gabra and Borana. It is a few greedy politicians with some unscrupulous businessmen who want to make it appear that way, and they rope in and they play the clan card to whip emotions Say, oh, this community, that community, so that they benefit. This is the major problem.
Let's call it incitement, not really politics. Let's call it incitement. Of course, they are using the old disputes, old issues of disputes, and that. But all of it has to do with incitement, either by politicians or other people who incite their own communities. But we cannot say per se that this is purely political. It's not a purely political war.
Governor, there are allegations from different quarters that part of the displacement taking place in Marsabit County is just a plan of the wider picture to settle Boranas from southern Ethiopia in Kenya. What can you say about that?
It is lies, diversionary. It is also diversionary that I am claimed to be settling people in Kenya. No, none. I've never done it. I will not do it. Right? And I am telling you that is just a mere allegation. There are those people to show you any foreigner who has been settled anywhere and by who and how. You will not get. These are just allegations.
Caught in the conflict's deadly grip, Fatuma Godana fled her home in fear. She has been forced to abandon her Miraa farm. Her business has since come to a crippling halt.
Saa hii leo hii wakati nakuja hapa mimi silali kwa jumba yangu. Hii miraa yangu angefaa kurokota kila mahali kila siku. Sasa videla kila siku, leo ndio ninaomba jirani ninakuja kurokota.
Sisi tunafanya kazi ya makanga, tunafanya kazi hapa. Usawa tunamkanga usiku kama saa 11. Na hiyo masaa ukiamka unasikia mwingine ameuawa saa 12. Hata mimi hata siku mingi sijakuja kazi.
When there are such chaos, when lives are lost, when people are crying, when people are displaced, when the schools are closed, you cannot concentrate on your development agenda. We will leave aside every other thing and first of all ensure that there is peace. Without peace, nothing meaningful can take place.
Huna ruhusa kuweza kutoa roho ya mwenzako. Mwenyezi Mungu aliweka roho, ndio ataweka na atatoa.
Life is slowly slipping away from the once buzzing Marsabit town. Schools in Kubikalo, Forole, and other conflict flashpoints remain closed as fear escalates. It's a conflict that extends to the outline of Kenya's neighbor to the north, Ethiopia, and that at times seems out of the grasp of the local law enforcement. A fight for peace, punctuated by tears and pain. It's a people so close, yet so far away. A community condemned to live at the very margins. Still, they hope that they will someday walk in a new era of peace. Melita Oletenges, NTV.